Welcome to the first episode of Your Voice, Women's Rights in the Workplace. My name is Deborah O'Rell, and I will be your host. This is a webcast where I hope to be able to interview women who are breaking the glass ceiling, helping women with leadership, taking charge of their life, and hope to have guests that will provide that kind of information. Today, I am thrilled, truly, to be speaking with Michéle Kline, the founder of Kline Hospitality. Michéle is an industry expert in organizational behavior and process improvement, who has developed and repositioned the operations of some of the most refined hospitality brands in the United States and South America, including Four Seasons, Hilton, Caesars Entertainment, Marriott International, Pinnacle Entertainment, Wyndham Hotels, Diamond Resorts, all of a few places I love to stay, just to name a few. Michéle is also an international best-selling author, and in 2021, she was awarded the Global Top 15 Training in Hospitality Award. So welcome, Michéle. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It sounds exhausting, right?
Totally. And a best-selling international author. What is your book?
It's called Becoming an Unstoppable Woman. It's a saga of 6 different books with 25 different women from across the globe.
Oh, wow. I didn't even look that up, so I will have to check that out.
Absolutely.
Maybe get some ideas for other people to have on the Zoomcast here. So, Michéle, let's get started. So tell me a bit about yourself and how you started Kline Hospitality. What's your story?
So, yes, great. So I have been in the hospitality industry for over 20 years now. Like I said, it sounds exhausting, but when you do it with passion, everything is possible and everything seems light. So I was very young in my career and I experienced really poor leadership. And with that, I decided I don't want to be associated with this anymore. I want to do this on my own and take the level of service to others out there and take a certain level of leadership to others out there. And that's how it happened. A lot of courage, a lot of determination, a lot of hard work. And I am where I am today. Very proud for that.
Wow. So you have been working for yourself for how long? Since you were young?
I've had my firm for about 12 years now.
Wow.
It's been 12 years. In those 12 years, I've had moments in life where, you either have children or your husband is getting a promotion or whatever that looks like, where I was still running my firm on the back end, but I took a specific role in the industry. Also, sometimes we get caught up in that hamster wheel of wanting to check some boxes from a titles perspective and gaining some very specific experience. So that's how it all ended up working out. And that's about it. 12 years.
Wow. So what was the as they say, breakthrough moment that you decided you wanted to be your own boss?
So breakthrough moment for me had a lot to do with what I was experiencing. And there was one particular instance where I, after years of being the top ranking region in the organization and, both from a customer service perspective to an employee engagement perspective to a financial perspective and realizing what my value was and that I wasn't growing where I was at because in my perspective, it was somewhat of a toxic environment. So I felt that coming out of that toxic environment would allow me to continue to make my grass greener as opposed to trying to, or looking always at the grass that is next door, thinking that's greener too. The reality is your grass is going to be as green as you want it to be. So for me, it was a pivotal point where I realized what my worth was as a
Mm-hmm.
leader, as an individual, as a woman. And I decided I have to do something different. If I want to make a change in my life, I have to do something different. I'm responsible for that. Nobody else is.
Right.
And I talk
Right.
about my journey a little bit on the second book of Becoming an Unstoppable Woman, which specifically focus on entrepreneurship, and the story is laid out with no filter on that one. But it was truly realizing what your worth is, and
Mm-hmm.
then having the courage to take that leap of faith and do it.
Yeah. It, um, I would say it's that for myself, just identifying with what you're saying is that moment that you overcome the fear of letting go of a secure job to, yes, I can do this, to find that courage, that confidence within yourself to say, I can do this.
Yes, absolutely. And also, I've always believed in not allowing anyone to alter my moral compass. And when your moral compass is confused, that's when you know that's not the place for you. And I've always wanted to be able to help others grow, whatever it is that I perhaps didn't have as a mentor, become that mentor, right?
Right.
So create that environment for others that I was seeking so badly.
Right. So, since this is going to be about helping women in the workplace, do you notice any patterns? So, women moving into leadership, the hurdles they have to overcome, what has to happen for women to move forward? Like, do you notice any patterns or
So I'll
pitfalls?
give you, Deborah, a little bit of background history as to why I became or how I became such an advocate for women in the workplace, right? And women in the workplace, because this is what we're talking about now. My advocacy is related to inclusion altogether, the feeling of belonging altogether, right? Why? Because I believe in diversity. I believe that when you have men and women and people with dyslexia and people with a certain disability at the table, then there's perception.
Mm-hmm.
There's different perspectives, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then it's richer what you're trying to accomplish. So from the perspective of what it is that I can see as a pattern, I think we've come a long way. I think that the pattern is definitely making sure that, or I see how the big box organizations are becoming more aware of this. Some of them will bring people into leadership positions because they have to, because it's the trend, because otherwise their clients will look at them differently and perhaps stop supporting them, because we're going into that era where we are aware, and perhaps it's the younger generations that are pushing everybody else to be aware of certain things.
Right.
If you're going to consume that, right?
Right.
When I was growing in my career, number one, it was all men. Number two, I did not have women mentors at all, because we were all like, there were only a few perhaps climbing that ladder. The whole perception, when we talk about patterns, the whole perception of, women are mean to women. Let's analyze why that is the perception. And the reality is, there were only, back in the day, 20 years ago, there were only a few seats at the table, if any. So if there were two or three that were climbing that ladder to get to that table, they were going to do whatever it took to get to it. You know what I mean? So
yes.
The environment created those behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
So now that the environment is changing, because now we're in the spirit of collaboration and there's more women advocating for women and putting the message out there that it's okay that we both do the same thing. Because guess what? No one's going to need exactly what you're selling, because perhaps it's a matter of character, perhaps it's a matter of connection, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're not truly competing here all the time. There's things that we can do, and we all bring something different to the table. And once again, I go back to understanding what your values are. Because when you know what your value is, then it all trickles down from there. You become more confident and you're able to embrace other women in the mix, right? And lift each other up. And I think that if there is one thing that we can look at is the fact that women today have realized that together we achieve more.
Yeah. Well, with the proliferation of women's organizations, this Zoomcast, this series of interviews is all this kind of information to provide to women to support this kind of growth mode.
Right.
Like, what's one important tip that you would give to, let's just say, women for the sake of this podcast?
I would say if there is one thing that you can do to turn the way you communicate around is think about the receiver instead of thinking about the message you're trying to deliver or your personal interest. Think about the receiver first. When you put the receiver first and you understand their age group, you understand their ethnicity, their background, you understand their gender, you understand their beliefs, when you understand all of that, you'll be able to craft that message so that that person will open the door to hearing what you have to say.
Right.
It'll be welcoming, right?
Right.
You don't communicate the same way with an 18-year-old or a 16-year-old than you do with a 2-year-old, than you do with someone who's 80.
Right.
You don't.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
So when we adapt the message, putting the other person first, that's when we start bridging some gaps.
This question just popped into my head. Since you do a lot of work with diversity, inclusion, are you a believer that employers should have the numbers? So if there's a position available, this is are we hiring the best person, or are we just hiring, a person of color or a Black person or a female or a Muslim or, something to fill in that slot? Are you a believer in having those, dare I say the Q word, quota?
I think that's a fantastic question. And this is what I believe in. I believe in diversity because it makes sense. I'll give you an example. Human resources department in the hospitality industry, at least, it's typically 90% women.
Yeah.
So what happens next? You have a department that deals with people and deals with issues and deals with challenges, and they fix things, right? So when we don't have that diversity to look at things from a different angle, to perceive things differently, to have different perspectives, then that becomes a problem. On the one hand. On the opposite end of the spectrum is when you're only focused on your quota, it's the same as selling something. When you're only planning on selling it to this person, you're limiting yourself.
Right.
So if we're going to do it, we got to do it right.
Yeah.
So perhaps at that point you say, okay, I couldn't find, let's say you have to hire someone in HR. It's all women. You want to bring some males into the mix, or vice versa. It's a department that is completely geared by men and you want to bring a woman into the mix. Extend the hiring. If out of the 5, you only got 2 women in the mix and neither of them cut it, go find that person.
Right.
If you need that diversity, go find that person.
Right.
Because that person is out there. And that's the easy way out is to say, women are not applying.
Right.
Right? Or men are not applying into HR positions.
Tech. I mean,
tech, yes.
STEM, all of that. How do you get more women in? But then they're not hiring because all the hiring tech people are all men, or they hire certain women, because of their personalities. But that's why women don't feel comfortable. or welcomed is the better word. They don't feel welcomed in some of those.
Yeah. However, you have to, in many areas, I think there's a lot of awareness that has been created so far. So the very first thing, like we said before, the very first thing that you have to do as a woman is eliminate that thought. I'm not welcomed, or it's going to be a boys club, or eliminate that thought. That thought's going to take you nowhere, right? So you're there to get the job done. You're there to feel your passion. You're there to share your gift and your talent with other people. That's what you should be worrying about.
Is there anything you want to add or share or ask, whatever?
I think that and my ask would be, if you are a believer that women should have the same opportunities, for the sake of the topic, because I believe that everyone should have the same opportunities, use your voice. Use your voice. Use platforms like this one to inform people how this is important, how it will change the way we do business, right? How having someone wear a skirt for that particular meeting is not okay, right? So use your voice. Use your voice in an elegant way, in an educated way, and then we will continue to make strides.
Well, you have a fantastic voice, and that accent alone has got to have helped you be very successful. You have a lovely voice, just by the way.
Thank you.
But so just in terms of wrapping up, any, I guess that was advice that you would recommend. So I just want to thank you so much, Michéle. KlineHospitality.com to check out Michelle's programs and offerings. And thank you again. This was really delightful, and I am very grateful that you took the time to spend with us.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you. And I like what you're doing, and it's great.